Hey guys, back with another video. My name's Katrina, by the way. This is the fourth part to my life. If you're starting in the middle, it probably wouldn't make much sense. It's much better from the beginning and just follow through with it. Um, so far, we have gotten to where my dad had gotten arrested. So, we later had to go to the police station. Whoa, it's falling. Caught it. So we later had to go to the police station. We had to tell the detectives what happened. I spoke to a lady there. There was a younger guy in the room. I didn't mind telling her what had happened, but she asked me if him in there bothered me, and she kept telling me how brave I was and how she admired my courage, and I didn't want to seem like I wasn't brave and I didn't have courage. So I lied to her and I told her that he didn't bother me. I didn't know exactly what kind of questions they would ask, and some of the questions I was fine with him being in there for. Others I wasn't, especially whenever it got to like the sexual abuse. Like, I was not okay with him being in there at all. I actually lied. Um, she wanted to know what happened the day of the orgy. I told her what I knew, squeezing the bear. She gave me a bear, and she told me I could hold on to it, and that it was her present to me for talking to her. So the whole time I was just clenching this bear while she was trying to talk about the sexual abuse and literally just like killing this bear. So I didn't want to talk about it. And I tried to talk to her about other things. She kept going right back to that day and the sexual abuse. She asked me a particular question about that day that I didn't mention. And this particular act made me feel so ashamed and so embarrassed that I had to lie. She knew I was lying because my mom and my brother had already confirmed that it was true in their interviews. And she said she also had Gina's file. So she already knew what I had told Gina and told the school counselor. She asked if I was sure that it didn't happen, and I lied again and told her it didn't. I didn't want to let her down and not be strong like she told me I was. I knew if I answered that question honestly, I would have busted out in tears. In my mind, if I were to show any emotion other than anger, it would mean I was weak. I learned later that emotions were part of who I am and not a form of weakness, but a sign of simple existence and guidance. That night we went into foster care. It was the Browns that I had went to. I don't know why this keeps falling. It did so good for like I don't know how many of these to stay put, and now it just keeps trying to slip. I don't know. I don't have anything to keep it up with. Um, there were all different kinds of food that we didn't even know existed. Being around a lot of other children, I got to ride on a motorcycle for the first time. I learned how to swim. I got to go to the skating ring for the first time. Finally got to ride a bike around the block like a normal kid. I had become very close friends with the Browns' first daughter. All of their children were adopted. I thought we were going to be able to be normal kids like everyone else. The home really, it became really crowded. There was, I want to say, like 8 more kids that they brought there. And I had to share a room with a few other girls. Most of us were sleeping on the floor on pallets. That's The mom of the house sat down with me one day. It was probably the second day that I had slept in the daughter's room, and she told me what happened to me was wrong, and she told me that she needed to make sure I wasn't going to try to do anything that my dad did to me to anyone else there. I thought that we were going to be normal, but when she said this, I just realized that that was never going to happen. I remembered, or I reminded her that I was the one that told on him because I knew it was wrong. I believed Gina when she told me that I wasn't to blame and did nothing wrong. I couldn't understand why everyone treated me as if I was my dad. I asked I was told often that he was sick and that's why he did the things to us that he did. I felt people treated me as if I was contagious, like I was the carrier of a sickness. While at the Browns, we all went on a vacation Bible school thing at the church of the Bohannons. And due to my behavior, the Bohannons offered to take me off their hands, but no one else. I behaved really well for some reason that particular day. They didn't want any children that would require extra effort. Not long after that, I was moved out of their house without my brother. They felt it was best to keep my brother and I separate because we were both pretty troubled children. They felt if we were away from each other, we might start to act normal and less animal like. I held a lot of anger towards everyone after finding out this bit of info, which was from eavesdropping on a phone call with the new mom. She had a friend that she was on the phone with, and I overheard the conversation of her saying, because they had asked, I guess, why they didn't take my brother as well. Didn't they try to keep the children together? And she said because we were so abnormal, I guess, or abnormal wasn't the word that she used, but animal like was a word that she used. That really, really got to me. I started having a lot of problems. I became very isolated, and thoughts of dying became very appealing to me. I could see how things would be better for everyone if I didn't exist. I found more comfort with animals and babies than I did from kids my age or adults. The new parents' adopted son was very ugly to me, and this only increased it only got worse the longer that I lived in their home. I was warned not to try to stand up to him from the other kids at their house and at the Browns where I had been previously. They told me he did nothing wrong in their eyes. They told me just to try to stay away from him. We got into a fight because I was having fun on an old tricycle going down a steep hill. The tricycle didn't even work correctly. He pulled me off of it while I was still going down the hill. I had a skint knee, scrapes on my hands, and a place on my head from me hitting a rock. When I finally got up from the attack, I pushed him down on the ground and told him he would never touch me, that he would never touch me like that again, and if he did, I would do to him what his parents were too scared to do. I had witnessed him treating others the same way and wondered why they never took a stand for themselves. I didn't understand what they meant by he did no wrong. I could clearly see differently. He ran to his mom and told her that I took the toy, pushed him down, and then threatened him with the rake. The children there looked scared, and there was a little boy that was there, and he told me to run. The dad heard of this outrage that I had had on his son. He came out to where we were. He grabbed the rake laying in the yard and told me, "You're lucky I don't do to you what your dad was too scared to do to you." He told me if I ever laid another hand on his son, he would make sure I knew what an afterlife looked like. Regardless of the evidence and the other children there that witnessed the incident, I was the only one punished. The only thing my dad didn't do to me was kill me. I felt the man had just threatened my life with his comment. I didn't understand how they could do so much bad without any repercussions. I didn't see any difference between living there and living with my dad. These people weren't supposed to be sick like my dad, but they acted like they were. Every morning I would wake up with this image of putting an armor on and going into battle. I began to think life was a constant battle between me and everyone else I would encounter that day. I felt everyone had an agenda and my best interest wasn't part of it. By this point, I had become sick of people taking my things, lying about me, and punishing me unfairly. Shortly after, I found out my mother was having surgery on her back and was out of work. The Bohannons at the time seemed to be very stable and definitely had a better lifestyle than I was accustomed to. They had a sum of money rolled up sitting on a desk. I didn't think they would miss it, so I took it. I had already stolen plenty of food, so when I wasn't fed or sent to my bed before dinner, I was still able to eat. After them freaking out so bad about it being gone, I heard them talk about how much they needed that money for their truck. I started to feel bad, so I put it back. They didn't know I was the one that took it, but they had their suspicions. I had planned on giving my mom the money to help her out while she wasn't working. I didn't realize it until I was a lot older, but I had adopted my dad's same beliefs, violence, paranoia, and controlling tendencies. When I was younger, my dad would take me to break into the neighbor's house around us. He would go through their stuff, make fun of their children's pictures on the fridge, and steal whatever he could find of value, including money. We did this about once a week, and surprisingly, the police were never called. People started to get dogs, not little dogs either. We would see big dogs. He would lure them onto the property and kill them. A man up the driveway moved from a house he rented because his animals kept running off while on chains. And his stuff would come up missing. The only explanation was someone would break in while he was at work. My dad would tell us the dogs were meant to be wild. Most of them were Rottweilers. They were killers by nature, and they didn't need to be where people lived. He told us we were doing the right thing by taking the dogs off into the woods far from the houses. While still at the Bohannons, a girl I shared a room with had a baby. Even though the baby wouldn't wait, or even though the baby would wake me up most of the time at night, I enjoyed their company. Another girl, Jennifer, came to live with us that was known for having happy feet. She said that this was the foster home that she enjoyed the most, and if she was put there, she wouldn't run away again. I couldn't see how this home was any better than any other, and I wondered why she was so fond of them. It wasn't long till the first girl had problems with the mom. They were moved right after the incident. The mom said that she was dangerous, so she had to get them moved. Jennifer became my new roommate. The foster mom would talk poorly of me and lie about me while I was present. If I contradicted what she said, I was punished. They attended church every Sunday, even on vacation. They prided themselves in being a religious family who were esteemed in the community for taking unwanted children in. Wow, this is slipping again. It did so well for so long. Living with them wasn't what it looked like on the outside, though. While in a Sunday school class, I was asked if I was ever punished unfairly for an incident with the son. While in a Sunday school class, I asked about a punishment that I had received for something that I felt was unfair to do with the son. And dang, I lost my place. I was immediately scolded for bad-mouthing the family that took me in when no one else wanted me. I was told I needed to learn my place, that the sooner I learned to keep my mouth shut, the better off I would be. And this is by the Sunday school teacher. The teacher told the parents what I had said as soon as he seen them. It didn't take long for me to realize that it wasn't worth the fight. No one would believe me, even if I did tell anyone about the way I was being treated. She said that she had to keep me locked in my room at night to keep me from stealing her blind. She claimed every home I had ever been in, I was kicked out of for violent acts against the parents and other children there. She talked about how having me in the house made her feel for her life and the lives of the other children there. She claimed that I had to be separated in a different room from the other children and locked in. And all these kinds of stipulations just weren't something that she could do at her home. She talked about how no one else wanted me at this point, and this was my last stop before being put in a special facility. I wanted to go back to the Browns. The more I talked about going back, the angrier the new mom got. I would ask to see my brother, or if I was able to call him, and I don't know why that keeps slipping. Maybe it'll stay better this time. And the phone was always off limits. You couldn't use the phone. While at church one Sunday, I went over to the altar to pray. I began to beg God to move me from this home. I started to cry more and more the longer that I begged. The pastor thought that I had come to pray to receive salvation. He asked me some questions I didn't understand, and I just agreed with him in hopes that he would leave me alone. He told me to repeat what he said, so I did. He told me I was saved and announced to the church, pulling me up in front of everyone, and watched as the parents soaked in the glory of leading another troubled soul to Christ. They were congratulated by the church for their service to the cause. I was glad that this event stopped the problems for a little while. The parents let me call my mom to tell her I was going to be baptized. They told me if she wanted to come and witness it that she could, but she wouldn't be able to return to the church afterwards. My mother agreed to the terms and came to see me baptized. Since my dad's arrest, my mom started going to church and had rededicated her life to Christ. I didn't know this about her until that day. After the baptism, though, the problems with the mom started back up. After the mom got the carpet shampooed one day while I was at school, I had a suitcase up under the bed and it was filled with items I had collected, like food. And there was a soda can that was in it standing up, and she jerked the suitcase out from under the bed, and whenever she did, she spilled over the drink, and that's how she thought to look in the suitcase. Of course, she opened it to see what was going on. When I got back from school, she had my suitcase on the table for everyone to see. She proceeded then to scream and threaten me. She claimed being saved didn't change my ugly ways, and maybe I was too far gone for even Christ to save me. Her son laughed and pointed at me while this scolding took place. When Jennifer got home an hour later, because I was in elementary school and she was in high school, we were still in the kitchen. The mom announced that I was a terrible person, and she was showing everyone the evidence that she had found that I was just this terrible person. Finally, we were able to leave the kitchen. I went to my room and just sat on the bed. Jennifer asked me why I didn't hide the suitcase better. I told her I thought I did hide it well enough for her not to mess with it. She showed me how to hide my things a little better. Jennifer became very concerned for me. She knew the mom was lying about me. She knew that I didn't mess with anyone because of the way I was always treated there. I chose not to have anything to do with the members of the family because the way the people were. She told me the foster parents weren't the same as they were before when she had lived there previously. She didn't understand the problem with the mom and what had happened with me. But she said she was starting to feel scared for me. She felt after the mom got rid of me that she would be next. She told me she was going to run away again. She wanted out before the mom could have a chance to treat her the same way she was treating me. She said she didn't feel right leaving me behind in this turmoil. She had planned to run away at school the next day. She told me to pack my things, no more than a book bag full of stuff. When I got back from school, she expressed the importance of not doing it before. And that night I was to go to the end of the driveway at 12 a.m. that she would send someone to pick me up. She told me that we would take care of each other and not to worry about anything. At school the next day, my caseworker came to pick me up with my things and placed me in another home. She asked me if I knew anything about Jennifer, but I told her no. She told me I shouldn't be there for long to try to behave. The foster mom had packed my things for me. Most of my toys given to me for my birthday by people that attended the party were not included. When I asked about them, my caseworker said the toys that were at the house were the toys that all the children played with. She said I couldn't take them because they weren't mine. She said they were the toys that I played with while I lived there. She said the mom told her that I was having trouble understanding what was mine and what wasn't. She said that's part of the reason why I had to be moved. This new foster home was a lot different from the last. We had an allowance, and we actually got to buy things with our money. It seemed like a family instead of a home where strangers lived. Sorry, I was checking the time to make sure it don't go too far. No one was treated any differently. They had a piano, and the mom showed me different keys and children's songs. It wasn't long until I could play a few parts of them. They had a horse in a field near the house. I would spend all day outside with the horse. Since I was very small, I'd always been fond of animals, especially horses and dolphins. I often talked about riding horses and swimming with dolphins when I got older. I wasn't able to ride the horse, but being around it gave me some peace. Of course, the mom had heard the rumors from when I lived with the Bohan, and she was very weary of me. But after a couple weeks, she made a statement about how well behaved I was, unlike what she would have been told. At this home, when we would misbehave, the parents would take part of your allowance. I remember one night at dinner, I was becoming more relaxed with everyone in the house and making jokes. It was time to eat, and the mom wanted me to stop so everyone would settle down. Due to the amount of fun and the attention I was getting, I didn't want to stop. I watched her deduct part of my allowance, and it made me sad. I didn't want to mess up staying there because I knew things could be a lot worse. I didn't want to leave the horse and the piano. That was the only time I got in trouble while I stayed in their home. Even though they knew I wouldn't be there for long, instead of making me sleep on the floor or the couch, they went and got bunk beds for me to have a place to sleep in the girls' room. I knew they didn't have to do this for me, and I was very excited they liked me enough to buy me a bed to sleep on. It wasn't long until my caseworker told me that I was going to be living with my grandmother, my mom's mom. I had seen her once since I was taken into state's custody at church. She never came to visit us or even called. The Bohannons were looking for a new church and attended. Oh, they were looking for a new church to attend after my baptism because they were scared that my mom might show back up at the church. And to prevent that, they wanted to start attending another church, and they ended up at my grandmother's church. They told me I could sit with her for the service. During the service, she told me to pray that Donovan and I would be able to come home. I didn't know exactly what she meant by that, but I closed my eyes and repeated what I heard her pray. All right, we're at 21 minutes and 30 seconds, so I'm going to cut it off here. Um, getting a little bit further, so it's definitely a lot lighter now. Um, Hope y'all enjoyed it. There's not too many more pages. We're on 12 of 21. So, see y'all next time.